He was the first in Florida to have that successfully done. They said, scientist mom experiments with child. But we had prayed. We knew there were not very many options. So we went in and got it done. And God blessed it.
It is that inner strength, resilience of a woman. It is that creativity, the intelligence, the ability to manage. That's what makes us real women.
NTA Tuesday Live, analytical, in-depth, educative and interactive on national issues accommodating all sides of opinions.
We as a people have understood that we have to fight corruption before it fights us back.
Poverty has a financial index, so it should be fought also with a financial weapon. Give it to the social investments program. It has been a very courageous battle.
Tuesday Live, every Tuesday at 10:30 p.m. Join us.
This is the network service of the NTA.
That are not married and they're doing this incredible.
Well, there's a myriad of things. I think first of all we have to go back to
Writer, you are very well known for your teaching skills. Your students speak a whole lot about you.
Miss Nigeria competition.
I said, let's pick them up, let's take them back to Nigeria, and let's teach them a different kind of job.
In the words of Christian Dior, after women, flowers remain the best thing God created. And by direct translation, I simply say that women remain the best thing God created. Flower comes after that, even before the men. They were always there to complement each other. Take it or leave it. Women are the spice of the earth, the salt of the earth. All right, on that lovely note, I welcome you to the show, The Woman. And I have a guest here who has done a whole lot. And ask me, I'll tell you, she is much more than the flower. She is much more than just the woman on the road. She's much more than a mother. She's done a whole lot of things to enhance the lives of people, especially within Benue State. Join me as I welcome her, but that will be after this time out.
I don't think in gender boxes at all. I just get on with it.
A man that would dare to ask the wife, who do you think you are? That is a real man.
In fact, our husbands are our firstborns. The husband needs more attention than even the children.
It's not only about work, it's not only about family. They need to take the time to look after themselves, and we don't. We don't do that.
They took my money. I paid every fees. I never asked to be hoisted as a governor. I wanted to be allowed to go out there and contest for the position of governorship candidate first.
There's nothing greater than looking back and seeing that while you were aspiring, you were able to inspire others.
Empowered to women.
Yes.
We need to have more women, more multitaskers around Nigeria to get Nigeria working.
Definitely. All right, nice to have you join us, Professor Charity Angia. I hope I got that right.
You did. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
It's nice to finally meet with you because when you were the Vice Chancellor in Benue State, I heard a whole lot you did. We'll get to talk about that. But I'm wondering, for someone who studied theatre, you eventually, went in full-time into administration. What motivated you first into the theatre?
Well, the theatre, I've always been so interested in performance.
as a young student in Bristol Secondary School, Buku. I watched a lot of performances. I never performed, but I know that that was where I got my love for theatre. And so when the time came for me to choose the career or the course to study, I just made up my mind I wanted to study theatre. Actually, the first time I went on stage was when I was in University of Jos in my first year. So it's interesting that the love that I have for the theatre started all the way back when I was much younger, and yet I never ventured on stage until I decided to choose that career.
After you graduated, you didn't quite pursue that. You went into the academics. Why?
Well, I did my first degree in Jos, went to University of Ibadan, did my master's and PhD at the Stretch. And as I was doing my PhD, I started teaching within the department. So it was like there was no other option left for me but to pursue the academics. And I was teaching, what I was teaching was a course I loved, and which I still teach, which is theatre arts. So I'm still, technically speaking, maybe not an active performer, but teaching performance.
Oh, really? So there's a bit of drama when you're teaching?
Of course, a whole lot of it.
I think I want to be in your class one of these days and see what it is like.
It's very interesting,
You
yeah.
rose to the position of Vice Chancellor in Benue State University, and you recorded tremendous success. But at the time, too, it wasn't that easy. Let's share some of your experiences. I mean, the challenges you had. I'll get to what you enjoyed most, but let's face the challenges first. Because it's not always easy to find women who, climb to that position and, stay for that length of time. But you did.
Yeah. I think that the position of Vice Chancellor is challenging for just anybody. It's a challenging position because you are dealing with students, you are dealing with staff, and then there are a whole lot of other problems that have to do with ensuring that you provide the needed facilities for effective learning and research. So it's not an easy job, but the first challenge I faced as a woman was even in the contest.
In the contest?
Yes, I was one woman contesting with 10 men.
Ooh.
So
you weren't scared or something?
No, I wasn't. It was a familiar environment. Yeah, I've always been in the academics, so for me, that didn't even, it wasn't a factor for me. But it was a problem for a whole lot of people. Mm-hmm. And many of them kept saying that the job was too challenging for a woman, and that Benue State University was bedeviled with too many problems for a woman to lead at that time. But I forged ahead, and with God's help, I got selected, both at the Senate and Council, and then the visitor, then Dr. Gabriel Suswam, appointed me Vice Chancellor. So when I came in, I realized that handling the university at that level was quite challenging. But I had a good team. I had a lot of people who were very supportive. And then we started looking at it, developing a strategic plan, and we made sure we stuck to the plan. I think that was what helped us to overcome many of the challenges and then to set Benue State on the course of development, Benue State University, on an effective course. We developed the university, built the university library, built so many other structures, and not just structures. We looked at the technology, tried to see how we could use technology effectively in teaching, and then tried to look at the problems the students were facing and addressed issues of welfare and so on. The biggest challenge we had at the time I was there was the finances to run the university. But what we did was that the little that came in we used effectively, and then we had other people coming in to partner with us. Mm-hmm. And so we were able to achieve some modest success.
I keep wondering, Vice Chancellorship, it's a sweet post, for anybody to occupy. But then there are a whole lot of things happening in the university. One of them cultism. I don't know. During your tenure, how were you able to curb it? Because we seemingly didn't hear much of it. What was the tool? Let other people benefit from it. How did you circumvent around that?
When I came in, I found out that the students were involved in this cultism. And there was an issue that, I think there was some clash outside the gate. And so we decided to bring the students together, talk with them, counsel them, pray with them.
Oh, that's
that was my strategy. At the point that then some of the people from the federal government came to us to find out what our success, why we were not recording any cultism in the university. And I told them that basically these students need you to get into their head, to be close to them and to talk with them and to ensure that the grievances they have are addressed promptly so that you don't give room for students to begin. You engage them. We made sure that the sporting facilities were functional and then that the students were actively engaged. But I think the biggest weapon we used was to talk to them, counsel them, and pray with them.
I guess that's coming from the fact that you're a mother, you're a woman, and you had to use the woman thing, A lot of men will go like, if you do this, we're going to give you repercussion, we're going to do this, we're going to do that.
We didn't do
But
that.
when you talk, because I want to believe that every human being has a conscience, and when you're able to tap into that, you record, immense success. And you did that and it worked for you. Congratulations. But I'm wondering, you were involved in... for 10 years, you were part of the
Center for Gender Studies.
Center for Gender, and I'm wondering, what were you able to achieve for the women, especially in Benue State within that period?
We did a whole lot in terms of mainstreaming women into the various development sectors. We were lobbying for women to get into positions. We were lobbying for so many other things, and one of the areas we wanted to really handle was this issue of domestic violence. There was a bill that we took to the Benue State House of Assembly for against domestic violence, or on domestic violence against women. And the only problem we faced there was that it was a very much male-dominated house. I think there were only 4 women in the House of Assembly. So when that bill went through the first reading, second reading, and so on, and then we were asked, so it was very difficult for us to go ahead with the public hearing because we insisted that the man had to be there, since the male, we needed a male view.
Was he a deliberate thing he didn't come?
It took time. We got him there eventually after about 3 hours. And then he came, he never said anything. And when eventually that bill got to the House, it was killed because the men said they couldn't legislate against themselves.
I want to believe that with time, the men, like I always tell them, every man didn't just come out to the world, he came through a woman. And for every good thing you do to the woman, or for the woman, you're actually doing to yourself. Because invariably, the woman will always care. Say, train a woman, you train a nation. Because whatever the woman gets, she takes back to the family. Speaking of which, you have one. I know you have a family, happily married with kids.
Yes.
And you're about everywhere, trottling between Lagos, Abuja, Makurdi, everywhere, trying to get your job done. And I'm wondering, how do you coordinate, with the family?
I had a good support base. I have a very warm and loving husband, very caring, and he gave me so much support. He ensured that where I was lacking, he covered, so that there was no issue of a crisis that would, take away my attention from the job. I gave it 100%. And the children, too, I must admit, were quite understanding. Even though I know they must have suffered from my absence at some point and so on. But because he was there, it made everything easier for me. And also, the good thing about Africa is that we usually have relations that we can always form a good support system. So all these people were there, to help cover up the areas where I couldn't be present, to handle it. So I want to say that is maybe part of what we have that makes our families very strong, even though women are engaged in these jobs or occupations.
I'm going to go with you to your home to get to find out what happens. Probably share a bit or two within your environment, see how you work. But then, before I do that, because I will be talking strictly family, I'd like to know, being what you have been and going through and back, what would you say is...
A lot still needs to be done. And then the most recent thing now is the alarming level of use of drugs amongst young people. That is also a contributory element to many people dropping out of school. So many of the children, not being able to make anything out of life, thereby contributing effectively to the development of the country. We need to tackle these issues, because these are alarming cases.
Yeah, definitely very alarming. Another alarming case which seems to be, making the rounds now is lecturer-student relationship, so to speak, but I call it abuse. Some have been thrown open, some are not talking because they don't want to be stigmatized or maybe maltreated by people around them, especially the female students. Now, having been where you were, held such a very close, very a good position as a Vice Chancellor of a university, what do you think is the reason and how do we tackle girl-child sexual abuse by lecturers?
It's a very unfortunate, it's one of the maybe dark sides of tertiary education. When we look at the issues of cultism, of sexual abuse, whether it is male or female, it's a big problem. As Vice Chancellor, I addressed it, I tackled it head on. We had in place, the Senate of the University at that time decided to legislate and to say that we're not encouraging male staff relationships, staff-student relationships. It was a tug of war, but we put in place, that law that said that we were, somebody said, how do you, if you say there should be no staff-student entanglement, how do you monitor it? We don't monitor people, but if for any reason anybody reports that they have been harassed, then that law comes into effect. And we're very serious about it. And let me tell you, the number of the female students especially found that a welcome relief. And I think it encourages the people to be free and to be able to relate on the campus without fear of being in any way oppressed or repressed in any way. So it's an issue that needs to be handled. And it's not just in Nigeria. It cuts across, even in developed nations, we talk about these issues of sexual harassment.
Okay, I wish I had more time to go into your professional life. I would like to dwell more on that. But I sincerely, believe that no one should be bigger than the law. Definitely, the law should protect the big and the small. Yes. But then, coming back home, I'm in your study, but I know that this study is right here in your house. It tells me that you want to relate very close home. And how do you really, juggle it? A lot of people, they say, okay, Vice Chancellor, she's become a big woman, she doesn't take care of them. How do you handle the kids? How do you relate with them?
Very closely. I think they are grown, so we have become more like friends. It's a difficult period transiting between childhood, adolescence, and then adulthood. When you share responsibility and when you agree on the upbringing of children, it's very useful. And the child knows that when he or she comes to mom is not going to say anything different from what daddy is saying. So that also helps, because these children can tend to do some kind of mischief when they know mommy is softer You know, they try to
mommies,
test to
actually.
see which one is the softer ground. In my home, they think I'm softer than daddy. So some of the things they think they could get away with, they don't tell daddy. Then they come to me, they say, Mommy, can I do? I say, please go and ask daddy. When I don't want to. When I want, and then they look at me, and then of course when they know they can't test the waters, they leave. But it's very good for parents to agree on the upbringing of children.
Thank you very much for that. Now, what do you do for relaxation?
Because I write too.
Yes, I know.
So I find inspiration in watching the creative writing in terms of how it plays out
on TV.
On TV, it plays out and then I also learn a lot about life, watching and reading about other people's lives. I think there's a lot to learn from them.
All right, what's your philosophy of life?
Diligence. I take my philosophy from the book of Proverbs. To see a man or a woman that is diligent in his or her work, that person will stand before kings. The person will not stand before mere men. So that is my philosophy, diligence.
It's a good one. I hope a lot of Nigerians will pick that up, because a lot of us expect so much from people, and we really don't care if we get to give that little bit that belongs to other people to them. It's important if we are diligent, not just in our jobs really, I mean office work. I believe if you're diligent with your relationship, diligence with your home, diligence with your friends, attention to them, it's important.
Yeah.
All right, thank you so much. I've had fun. Elizabeth told me that sometimes too you sing.
Yeah. Well, anytime I get excited, I sing. I told you that.
Okay, let me say you're excited now. What would you like to sing?